He has to be more careful with his language, especially if he talks about things like
So do
execution.
Democrats.
Can you please let me finish? I show you respect.
Ben,
show me
please.
respect.
Okay,
That's what needs to happen in this country. And the president has to show respect. He has to show honor. He has to show integrity. Yesterday, he called a woman piggy. Now he's calling an astronaut who's a Navy veteran a traitor. He has to be more careful and precise with his language, especially because he's a commander.
Democrats call him a Nazi.
He has a unique responsibility.
The president of the United States called Democrats traitors and called for their execution. That's where we are in the United States of America. I don't know if you had that on your bingo card or not, but Abby Phillip hosted a heated debate panel over this, which included MAGA pundit Ben Ferguson, one of the worst, as well as Lee McGowan, Richard Quest, Neera Tanden, Tim Parrish, and Tom Rykoff. Things got very heated as they discussed all of this. I'm going to share my thoughts as well. Let's get into this panel discussion on Abby Phillip's show right now.
Welcome back. As we were just discussing, I mean, there's a disagreement here about whether this needed to be said in the first place, but let's say that it didn't need to be said and that military members know already that they should only follow legal orders. And why on earth would the president then pivot and threaten those members of Congress for saying something that was so plainly obvious?
Go ahead.
Can I just say what I think is so odd about this is what is the problem to Donald Trump in saying don't do illegal things? I mean, why is that any threat to the president? You would think that most presidents are actually not planning to do anything illegal. And let me just finish. And I guess I would just come back to this fact, which is that his own Pentagon lawyers right now are disputing the legality of the Venezuelan just shoot downs of boats. And so I think the idea that the far right is saying, what could you imagine? And I would disagree with you, Paul. I think this is totally wrong. When we have a current situation in which the president's own lawyers, people who work for the Pentagon, are saying it's possibly illegal that these actions are happening. Now,
right,
imagine.
let me ask you a question.
Just let me finish. Imagine 6 months or a year from now.
Hold on, Paul. I do want to get
they weren't specific because who knows what will be next.
Okay, let me say this. Let me say.
Hold on a second. Go ahead,
Who knows what will be next?
Neera, hang on a second. Let me let Ben.
This is the reason why the president responded the way he did. It is very clear this video was put out without any reason behind it. There was no red flag to put this out. It was done clearly for fundraising, number one.
Broken the law?
Let me finish, and then you can yell at me if you want to. It was clearly done, premeditated, fundraising. You got emails going out at 6 o'clock on the day this happened. That was clearly orchestrated and pre-planned.
Hold on, Neera.
Again. And the second thing is, you have a president that's pretty used to Democrats saying, we don't pay attention to laws. We don't enforce laws with ICE. We don't enforce laws with the border. We don't enforce laws with anything we don't like with Donald Trump. So this was a wink and a nod to military officials that if you don't like Donald Trump, you don't have to follow anything that he says that you don't really want to. And oh, by the way, the caveat, the best part about this is, then when he responds, we will literally be so shallow because there is no issue here. We're just trying to raise money off of it.
But Ben,
that's it. This is a money game.
Ben, if this is just a fundraising ploy by Democrats, why is Trump calling it a seditious conspiracy? Why is he likening it to treason? Why is he suggesting that
when you suggest that military leaders should go against the president of the United States of America, well, it was the Democratic Party.
That's not what they said.
I'm just taking you at your own
and I'll
if
expand.
it's a fundraising ploy,
don't expand.
Why is the president then acting as if this is a conspiracy to overthrow the government?
Abby,
but wait. We were all here on January 6th when he called the people breaking into the Capitol patriots. How do those things?
He said go peacefully.
He called them patriots.
He said go peacefully.
Ben,
and the majority of the people there, he believes.
You and I are talking about different things. We are talking about different things. In the moment, as they were breaking into the Capitol, Donald Trump released a video from the White House, and he called those insurrectionists patriots. He proceeded to then pardon them. How can that same man turn around and say a video that you just called a fundraising ploy is a seditious conspiracy?
Are they raising money off of it?
But
it's not because I say it. It's because Mark Kelly sent out a fundraising email. I didn't do that. Mark did.
Can I take us back to a point that
I wish somebody would say to Ben Ferguson, so should the punishment for sending out fundraiser emails, should that punishment be execution? Are you saying, Ben Ferguson, that sending out fundraising emails should mean that the Democrats should be killed.
All right, go ahead. Donald.
So sitting here in between this as it continues to go on, this is how our military feels right now. This is how the men and women of our military feel right now. They feel like they're in the middle of this every single day.
Don't put out the video.
I'm still talking. And that they're a political chew toy in the middle of this madness. But the president has a unique responsibility to set the command climate, to set the tone, to set an example. He has to be more careful with his language, especially if he talks about things like execution.
So do Democrats.
Can you please let me finish? I show you respect.
Ben,
show me
please.
respect.
Okay.
That's what needs to happen in this country. And the president has to show respect. He has to show honor. He has to show integrity. Yesterday, he called a woman piggy. Now he's calling an astronaut who's a Navy veteran a traitor. He has to be more careful and precise with his language, especially because he's a commander.
Democrats call him a Nazi.
He has a unique
A
responsibility.
Nazi.
He is the president.
They called him a Nazi and a fascist.
And he is setting the tone
celebrated when he
for
got shot. Don't lecture
Hold on,
us
hold on a
about
second.
words,
All
please.
All right, the sitting vice president also called him a Nazi, so don't.
And we just
can't
made
go there. But okay,
swastikas not
here's another
hate
thing that this, to your point, does anti-woke mean that swastikas and nooses are now no longer called hate symbols in the United States Coast Guard? According to the Washington Post, they discovered a change in the Coast Guard's harassing behavior prevention response and accountability policy that appears to raise that very question. Here are the two recent versions of that policy. On the left there, you see a document from 2023 that states that depictions of nooses and swastikas, also Confederate symbols, for example, would constitute, quote, a potential hate incident. But now, look on the right, and you'll see that the Coast Guard wants to call them potentially divisive symbols. An anonymous Coast Guard official told the Washington Post, "We don't deserve the trust of the nation if we are unclear about the divisiveness of swastikas." I should also add that it appears that the Coast Guard is going to take another look at this now that it has been made public. But I have no idea why this would even come up. But I mean, what do you think is behind it?
Well, I honestly, I don't know. I mean, aside from like a swastika is a hate symbol. It represents hate. What else does it represent if not hate? How many people died under a swastika? If I drew a swastika on your car and you were a Jewish person, what am I saying to you? If I put a noose on your car, what would I be saying to you? When it's associated with certain groups of people that have been treated in a certain way, that is why they become hate symbols. So for any part of our military to adjust their qualifications like this on hate symbols, it should be a glaring red light for us that we are in real trouble. Because this is very problematic.
The anti-woke push taking us to this place where we're sort of like softening the punishment for putting a swastika or a noose somewhere in the military?
I think that the folks over at Washington Post must have gone to like claymiles.com and got jokes out of his file of jokes and put, this is not a real story. The commandant of the acting commandant of the Coast Guard came out and said, this is categorically false. This is not their policy. I go back to our military members again. They know, Paul knows this just like I do. They know that there are standards and that these are hate symbols. And I will tell you, as Paul again will note, when you're getting shot at, you're getting blown up, you don't care who comes in the QRF to come help you and get you out. It's all your brothers and your sisters. And so you're trying to play politics. This story, not you. I'm sorry, not you. The Washington Post is trying to play politics with a fake story. That's not true.
It's not a fake story because here's the thing. Everybody in the military, including you in the Marine Corps, me in the Army, knows check the reg. Check what's in writing. And in writing, it's up there for the whole world to see. You can find it on the internet. It does not make it clear, right? It says that this is a potentially divisive thing. Swastikas and nooses, there's zero tolerance for them in the military.
Of course.
And there should be zero tolerance for anybody who doesn't understand that. If you work in government and you don't understand that, you need to resign today and find another job.
Did you see the commandant's?
Did you see the regulation? Did you see the writing? Did you see what it said? Read what it said.
Matters.
Right? Change the language.
Hold on a second.
The Post got this wrong. The U.S. Coast Guard put out this tweet, quote, "The claims the U.S. Coast Guard will no longer classify swastikas, nooses, or other extremist imagery as prohibited symbols are categorically false."
That's not what the Post story says.
That is what the U.S. Coast Guard says.
Yeah, I know that's
the
what
Coast Guard is saying. This is a lie.
Hold on, Ben.
The Department of Homeland Security said you guys are now just
And here's the reg. Here's the reg. Chapter 11, B. Potentially divisive symbols and flags. 1. Potentially divisive symbols and flags include, but are not limited to, the following: a noose, a swastika. There it is.
Okay.
Homeland Security. Again, Homeland Security is saying.
Hold on a second here.
There is the reg.
And we're going to use our thinking. We're going to put our thinking caps
I use it
on,
every day.
Okay. You read that statement. That is not actually what they are denying. Is not actually what the Washington Post story says. Yes. The Washington Post story doesn't say that it's not prohibited. It says that it has been reclassified from a hate symbol to something that is, quote, potentially divisive. So Paul just read the.
So
Paul just read it.
To be clear,
So
you guys think that they,
Ben,
you think if the news
let me
shows
finish,
up,
please.
No one's going to get in trouble?
Ben, let me finish. So when the Washington Post puts out this story, and then the Coast Guard says we're gonna take another look at this, that is an acknowledgement that in the writing, they have changed how it is characterized in writing. And to Paul's point, that is what really matters at the end of the day.
No, it matters what the Coast Guard leadership said this afternoon.
No, that's
you
spin.
That's
spin.
You can read it as many times as you want.
So you're saying
but
don't
they are
trust the
Do you
Coast
think it's
Guard?
going to stay this way? Do you think
they are
change
denying
it?
something
I
that is
think,
not
I
ever
think when the
alleged.
Coast Guard
they're gonna
comes
change
out,
it?
Can I just
You think
say-
I think when the Coast Guard comes out and says it the way that they said it, I go back
in
to what
the
he said.
regulation.
This is a
They
ridiculous
have
story
to
they're
change
saying
it.
is not
What-
accurate from the
They
Post.
have to
What's
change. It's
clearly-
absolutely
what's clearly
accurate,
happened
and it has to
here-
be changed.
What's clearly
Coast Guard will
happened
change it.
here is this is a regulation that
I want to go back to the beginning topic of Donald Trump calling for the execution of Democrats. Imagine if Ben Ferguson went on Abby Phillip's show and Abby Phillip said, Ben, you cannot say yes, but what about the Democrats? You can't say what about the Democrats. You can't say what about Joe Biden. You have to directly address what Donald Trump said. So are you defending Donald Trump in calling for the execution of Democrats? Is that okay with you? And I'm going to forbid you from saying, but the Democrats. I think Ben Ferguson would spontaneously combust. He can't speak without saying, but the Democrats, but Joe Biden. And that's what drives me nuts about all of these twerps like Ben Ferguson and Scott Jennings and all these other MAGA, just clowns, these douchebags that go on Abby Phillip's show. They cannot address the topic at hand. They cannot make a statement about Donald Trump without mentioning but the Democrats, as we saw here with him whining about their fundraising. The Republicans do the same thing. They're constantly fundraising as well. And of course, Ben Ferguson does the spin that they all do about January 6th, where Abby Phillip is trying to bring that up to Ben Ferguson. And of course, that was just a peaceful blah-de-blah-de-blah. But yet it's the Democrats who are the violent ones. And with these symbols, the swastikas and the nooses, I mean, just isn't this another example of how far we've fallen as a country where we have the worst people in the world, like Ben Ferguson, essentially in charge? I mean, we just have an administration under Donald Trump that is basically just a bunch of Ben Fergusons. I mean, look at Caroline Leavitt, the propaganda that she spews every single day, literally saying your mom to a reporter a few weeks ago. That's how far things have fallen. But let me know what you think about all this. Do you agree with what Ben Ferguson had to say here? I can't imagine that Ben Ferguson's own mother would agree with him, but I know there are millions of people that watch these clowns like Ben Ferguson and Scott Jennings and the rest and just love what they're saying. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with Ben Ferguson? Do you agree with Abby Phillip? Do you agree with Tom Rykoff, who probably wishes that he could just strangle Ben Ferguson if he could reach across the table and get to him? It's just exhausting. I don't know if you feel the same way or not, but let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure to give me a like and subscribe. I'm Chris on Culture, and I'll see you in the next video.